Okay, so this is a quick video. It's going to just kind of give you a basic idea as how to move forward if your child has a 504 plan, which means behavioral issues in the classroom. This would have been already talked about between you, your teachers, the child, and then the administration. This would have already been decided before now if you have a 504 plan. If there's an IEP, if your child has a specific learning disability, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, and within that, anything that's extra would be ADD, ADHD, anything like that. I wanted to just give you guys permission to feel okay about the situation, because it is kind of a really tough situation for education for anybody who has anything extra, especially if your child had a paraeducator that was paired with them before. They usually had extra support. They had people who were trained in this area, you know, and it's a ton of training. I've got 3 books that have to do about how to, you know, classically train in that environment. What I want to do is just let you know that it's going to be okay, whether or not we sit down and do like classic education with our kids this year, or if we do totally no education with our kid, they're going to be all right. They will be sufficient in what it is that they need to know. And so you can give yourself a healthy dose of grace and a healthy dose of just like get rid of that mental anxiety. A lot of the parents that I'm dealing with and talking to, mental anxiety is high, so I just want you guys to just be able to feel cool and calm about the fact that it's going to be okay, whether or not we're doing a whole lot or nothing at all. Okay, so depending on your child's situation, and it's very specific, because a 504 plan and an IEP means that we sat down and we talked about the specific ways to meet your child's educational needs. Each child has a different learning style, and as a teacher, you know, each of us you know, we have a myriad of different tools and techniques to try to, we may have one content, one specific idea that we're trying to get across that day, and we use like 30 different methods to see what picks up, what kids can grab what. And if you have a copy of your IEP, I would use that to kind of guide your instruction. Same with 504. If the child seems to do well, if in a loving scenario, child seems to do well with YouTube, child seems to do well with fidget spinners or using manipulatives, whatever it is that they've already determined, I would kind of start there and work my way up from there. Depending on your child's needs, I would say, you know, when we do like, you know, if you were given a Chromebook or an iPad from your classroom, I would say that would be where I would start. I would start like a theme and say, whether it's solar system or dinosaurs or, you know, human anatomy we're doing, we've got geography, stuff like that. I would just pick one theme for the week and start just like researching in that area. Do whatever it is that you find interesting personally. A lot of the research says that if you can make a personal connection to the material, that it will move from short-term memory into long-term memory. So if you wanted to be impactful with your kid, you know, maybe you and that child sit down and be like, you know what, I've always been really curious about Puerto Rico or Alexander Hamilton. Why are people talking about him so much? You know, that's the thing that you start researching and starting getting more information on. And when you have money for it, buy books in that area to supplement. One of my big tips for any kid that's dealing with ADD or any kind of mood disorder is to get as much books on the topic as you can to prepare you. Because as an educator and a teacher, you know, there's a lot of different tips out there that other people have gone through, and you can benefit from their experience. I know that even, I was going to share a little piece from this. There's a type of ADD called inattentive, meaning gets easily distracted, has difficulty sustaining his or her attention span for most tasks in play, school, or work, and has trouble listening when others are talking. This might be specific to all children always. So it's not necessarily that your child has a learning disability. It's just we all learn differently, and whatever you can play to their strengths would be beneficial to you. For instance, my oldest daughter, she dealt with the 5 stages of grief for a traumatic event, and so for about 2 years we could really only just work in 2 things: art and science. And that's what worked well for her, because that's the only thing she could digest emotionally, mentally. So if we're going through a lot of transition, you know, play to that. I wouldn't be stuffing content down somebody's throat right now. I'd just be like, hey, you know what would be fun? Why don't we go to the ocean and look at some sea creatures, right? Let's go to Ptolemy State Park and, you know, see what washes up on the beach, and then we'll Google that, you know, that kind of stuff. All right, another thing that works well with kids, and you probably remember this from growing up, Sticker charts, you know, an attaboy is always nice. So if you can reward positive behavior, that works particularly well with all children, but definitely with IEP and 504. Positive reinforcement is very helpful. So you sticker chart, at the end of the sticker chart, we get to go to the park or something like that. That's important. Manipulatives are important for all children, specifically any child who has a hard time staying on task or paying attention. It can be magnets, it can be Play-Doh, it can be clay, it can be drawing, it can be blocks, it can be toys. It can literally be anything that is a physical thing on their desk. Remember fidget spinners? That was a big deal for a long time because it did help kids. I mean, it was a big distraction for some. But to sit there and just having something to play with like this, it's impactful because whatever it is, if it distracts them, you know, it's only 30% of kids that can listen, auditory learner. Another 30% are visual, have to see it written down somewhere. But the majority of learners are kinesthetic, hands-on. They need to touch it. A great resource actually is to start Googling what is a kinesthetic activity. All right, so that's for ADD and mood disorder, 504, and again, each child is incredibly specific in their learning environment. So if you email me, and if you have a question like, hey, I can't get my kid to sit down, or hey, I can't get my kid to focus, email me and I'll give you some tips, okay? All right, thank you so much.